What's up, guys? Welcome back to the 1%er podcast. Sam and I are back today with an amazing episode. You know, we are here with a financial planner. We are here with a kingdom advisor. We are here with the CEO of Paradiem, and we're excited for this, guys. He's the author of What If We've Been Doing It All Wrong. He's going to help you guys and your family, empower you, and welcome ERIC DUNAVANT to the show.
Hey, thank you so much. I'm excited to be here.
I'm excited, man. Yeah, I'm excited.
He was just telling us a little bit off camera, and we're going to get into some great things.
Anytime you bring anybody that talks about money, I'm excited.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, Eric, why don't you get a little bit into how you came into the financial world? I know you had some tragedy in your personal life, and then how that's inspired what you're doing now.
Yeah. So it goes back to, I was raised in West Texas, small town in West Texas. My dad was a veterinarian. My mom stayed at home. And as far as life looked from the outside world, man, everyone always kind of asked me, tell me about your life growing up, man. Until I hit the 7th grade, I had an idyllic family life. Life was good. Things were good. 7th grade year, my mom falls and breaks her arm. Nobody thinks anything of it, but it won't heal. She ends up going in for surgery, gets a staph infection. A day before I started my freshman year of high school, we buried my mother.
Oh, man.
Like, completely unexpected.
Wow.
Right? So my dad is a veterinarian who's a type A personality, driven, and he's got visions of growing this veterinary practice, like a lot of business owners, a lot of things. And he's focused on growing and expanding this veterinary practice and what it can be and what it can become. And what ends up happening is he was so focused on that when my mom passed away, it was like a huge disruption and interruption in his life. Like, we didn't have the right kind of medical insurance. We didn't have the right kind of life insurance. He was so busy just driving this business. Basically, short story is, through that 4 years time, my dad spends time trying to figure out, am I going to be Mary Poppins, or am I going to go to the office? And how do I continue running this practice? How do I continue running this business? He was constantly chasing down the money side of things, trying to make it work. Man, he was the least healthy I'd seen him during that time. Our relationship was extremely strained because he was never home. I mean, we were never able to be together. Short story is, by my senior year, 2 months before graduation, he files bankruptcy. We lose everything. And our relationship was shot. I'm frustrated. I'm angry. I went off to school at Texas A&M, and here's what went off in my mind. Okay, it's not the right thinking, but this is exactly what happens in my mind. I said,
thank you so much for watching this episode of the 1%er podcast. As a token of my appreciation, I'm going to send you my free training video on productivity. All you have to do is message me the word time on Instagram. My Instagram handle is @SamBakhtiar, or simply go to the show notes and click the link and message me the word time.
If he would have been better prepared, if he would have had more money, if we'd been wealthier, then what happened to my mom wouldn't have mattered. And we would still had my dad, and everything would have been fine. So this lights a fire in me that I now need to go chase down wealth.
Can I ask you what caused the bankruptcy?
So all the medical bills. And then he had borrowed a lot of money on the business to expand the business. So you got medical bills, expansion of the business, and then he's not able to focus 100% on the business. And so all those, like a nice trifecta of disaster.
Makes sense.
Yeah. And so I went off to college to get a degree, ended up with a degree in agribusiness. My dad was a veterinarian. I understood business a little bit, but the application of agriculture seemed to make sense. And then I went to pursue a career that was going to make me wealthy and, help protect my own family. That was the entire thing that I was chasing down. The problem is, and we can talk a little bit more about it, is over my lifetime, that entire pursuit was completely miserable. I got into the financial services industry about 21 years ago through an opportunity, and have been in it since then. But the entire journey has been one of this recognition and realization that the way that the world tells us to go chase down wealth and to prioritize things in our life is completely upside down and backwards. And so one of the things that we talk about at Paradiem is intentional transformation. How do you be intentional in your life and transform the life that you're living And what it really comes down to is if we look at what the world is telling us, it's like it leaves us living a good story. Like look around and what you say is, oh, life's good. Oh, things are good. You ask your friends how they're doing. Well, I'm good. And what it then pushes down is you're not connected to your wife the way that you should be. You're not connected to your kids the way you should be. You're pursuing wealth for all the wrong reasons without an end game in mind. And the question is, if I would stop and take a step back and be more intentional, then I would probably be able to live a better story. And what Paradiem has found, and the reason that I get excited about telling this story is over time, what we've discovered is if you can help a family live a better story by being more intentional, you actually have the opportunity to pay less taxes, to give more money away, be more generous without changing your lifestyle at all. We just find out that the questions have been asked to us in the wrong direction. And what happened to me personally, and happy to kind of explore this however it works best for you guys in talking about this, was it was a series of my own transformations that started showing this to me and exposing me to this, that kind of became a part of my own journey. And I am still in the process of transforming, but it's, it's that journey of my own transformation that brought me through that. But it all started with that bankruptcy and then this huge drive to build wealth that made me completely miserable.
So what does that look like? What did that look like for you, being intentional with your transformation? How can families become aware of that, and then how can they start on that journey of becoming intentional?
Yeah, so the way that I discovered this was through a mentor of mine. And so let me back up real quick, because I think this is important to what we're talking about. Because so right when I started in the financial services industry, one of the things that I thought was, okay, so in my life, God's word is super important. So I believe that God's word is going to have something to say about how I build wealth. And there was a program out there called Crown Financial. And I said, well, I'm going to go look at this Crown Financial program because certainly it's going to show me how to use God's word to become wealthy. That's the idea that I had. And I went into the program, and the first two pieces of the program come down to two ideas. One is you don't own anything, God owns everything. And the second one is no matter where you are, you need to learn to be content where you are.
I love that. I love that. Matter of fact, it's something that I was talking about this morning. Wherever you are, you need to be content. Because I see so many people, especially, with this Instagram age and this Facebook age,
Oh,
they always are comparing their life to others. Oh, look at what he drives. Look at, he got the new Bentley. Oh my God, look at, he got the, she got the new purse and all that kind of stuff. And I'm like, you know what, man? I'm like, stop comparing yourself to other people. Just be happy, be grateful for what you have right here, right now. Because so many people don't have what you have right now.
yeah. I mean, this is one, I'll take a quick tangent on this, but I don't know if people realize this. If you make more than $30,000 a year, you've got more than 99% of the rest of the world.
Yeah. So many people forget that.
I just think people, we're naturally wired to be ungrateful. One of the best quotes that, my pastor always said, and I keep repeating all the time because it's so profound. He says, I'm not where I want to be, but thank God I'm not where I used to be. And to me, that's so important. I just see so many people are so miserable. They have so many good things going for them, but they're always looking at Instagram and Facebook and this and that. Oh, look at what this person is doing. Look at that person doing. Oh, look at this person doing. And it's to me, it's like, God, man, that's kind of mindset you don't want around you.
No. But that was an incredible. So you go from a guy who's thinking, I've got to become wealthy, to God, looking at God's word and going, no, I just need to be content right where I am. And that was kind of my first level of transformation, was God going, can you be content with where I've put you right now? If nothing ever changed, could you be content that I have you exactly where you're supposed to be? And what accompanied that story is we started getting, engaged with this idea of generosity, of what would it look like to take 10% of what we have and just be generous with it and trust God with the other 90%. And right as we're finishing this Crown class, we're like, okay, we're going to embrace this exercise. My wife got pregnant with my oldest son, Clayton. And we were like, I want her to stay home, but we're $200 short every month in the budget. What are we going to do? I don't care what we do. We're $200 short every single month. And said, okay, well, we're going to be faithful. We feel like we're called to give, and we feel like God wants us to stay home. And he says to be content where we are. So we're going to be faithful. And we gave that 10%. We had a ball just giving it to random places and random needs that we saw. But what happened is during that year, we never lacked for anything. We paid off $5,000 in debt. And it was like this transformational experience of, do I trust God to be who he says he's going to be, and for him to take care of me, and for this contentment? And that's what pulled me off of this path first of just pursuing wealth for wealth's sake, of can I be content right where God has me? Because when I was so focused on wealth, I'd ignore my wife because I'm reading business books. When my son's born, I'm not paying attention, I'm not taking care of my body the way that I need to be taking care of it. Even my connection to God before that happened is like, God, I need you to give me, not what I'm there to receive.
Didn't we have this conversation the other day?
Yeah.
I mean, what's next, Sam? What's next, Sam? I'm like, I'm good. I'm like, we had this conversation. They asked me the same question the other day. Sam, what's next for you? I'm like, well, don't get me wrong. I always want to make more money, but not at the expense of not hanging around with my kids and my wife, and not be able to, have the freedom that I want right now. I wouldn't exchange that for anything.
Yeah. Because that's the stuff that matters. And when you come back to, inside of Paradiem, what we talk about is helping people live their greatness, growth, governance, and generosity. But greatness is about why your story matters. And that's the number one thing I think that the world, and especially business owners, we get stuck in this idea of, well, my story matters, but I've got to build this business. And then after I build this business, then I'll do X, Y, and Z. Or after, or I'll work all these hours and I won't be home, but I'm doing that because I'm sacrificing for the family. Well, you're sacrificing something, but are you sacrificing the right things? And until we can get our heads clear on why our story matters, we keep running this pace of insanity.
So I have a question for you.
Yeah.
So I also believe in the concept that balance is a myth, right? So for example, at a certain time in your life, you got to do what you got to do to set yourself up, right?
Yep.
And so, whatever you got to do to set yourself up so that this way, at some point in your life, you earn balance. Balance is not something that's, given, it's earned.
Mm-hmm.
And so are you saying that you don't agree with that, or are you saying that you can be balanced all along while building an empire or while progressing?
I think you can be balanced all along. I think there's certain times like things are called for, but it's paying attention to the balance, because what happens is, so say there's a season where you need to work a little bit more, right? The problem is, especially if you've got a workaholic tendency like I would have, it's easy that becomes a habit, not a season.
Yeah, no, for sure. And that has cost me a divorce. What I mean? So like in the past, that has cost me a divorce. So I 100%, agree with that. I agree with that. There was a season that, my business was just, it was the last recession, just went down. So I just had to work, so many hours. I was putting 18, 20 hours at work. I was coming home for 4 years, like defeated working and not really communicating. And next thing you know, I got out of recession. I started doing better, then I got divorced. So, what you say is totally 100% on point.
Yeah, I experienced it in my own life. It didn't lead to divorce, but I mean, there were 2 to 3 years of separation involved there.
I got fat and I got divorced. I forgot the fat part. And that's the worst place to be, because now you're out on the market and you got a belly.
Oh, man. So, Eric, why don't you tell us about those 4 G's you have? Why don't you get into it and why it matters and how families can use that for that transformation?
Yeah, I will do that, but can I finish real quick? You asked me how people can kind of start to discover their own transformation. If I could do that real quick, and then we'll jump over the 4 G's, because I want to make sure we don't leave that behind, because I explained my transformation. But so that's what happened for me. And then I met a gentleman who mentored me, and he said, "Hey, Eric, I want you to know there's only one way to live your life, but there's 3 different ways you can ask yourself how you're going to live your life every single day that will make a difference, transformation or no transformation." Okay. So the first is, I can wake up every day and say, what do I want to do with the things that I've been blessed with, or the things under my control, right? What do I want to do with it? The second one is, I can go to this place that Crown teaches that says, hey, God owns it all. Even the Bible teaches and says that God owns everything. If I'm in agreement with that, then I can ask the question, what do I want to do with everything God's given me? The third version of this question is, what does God want me to do with what he's given to me? And what I found is that the struggle, even for me, and I get to live this every single day, is my inclination is to wake up and go, hey, I got all these plans. I got these things I want to do. What do I want to do? God, you own it all. I get it. I appreciate it. But what do I want to do with it? And it's the intention happens when we stop and say, God, what do you want me to do with what you've given to me? And it all comes back to a scripture that Jesus lays out in the Sermon on the Mount, Matthew 6:33, where he says, seek first his kingdom and his righteousness, and all these things will be given to you. So his kingdom and his righteousness, what I've kind of shortened that down to is God giving us an opportunity to say, hey, you take care of my kingdom and I will take care of yours. And it gives us this opportunity then to prioritize things from his perspective rather than our perspective. And that's, you ask how can someone live intentional? That's it, is figure out what God's perspective is. And what I found is God doesn't want our wives and our kids neglected. You know, God doesn't want us getting fat and ignoring our health, or on the other side of that, spending so much time in the gym that we're sedating ourselves to stay away from the things that we don't want to be connected to. There's a balance inside of that,
yes,
that leads into the 4 G's, but it all starts with turning your world upside down and not asking what you want to do, but figuring out where you're being guided by God.
Love it. Very different way of looking at it.
Oh yeah. Very different way.
So that was kind of the huge transformation that happened for me, because I was in a place where I was even, you figured this out, but I got sucked into building my business and being on the road all the time. I had a friend of me come to me and he was like, hey, I hear you speaking all this stuff and saying all this stuff. I just need to know one thing. I need to know why you hate your family. And I said, dude, what are you talking about? I don't hate my family. He goes, look, I hear everything you say. And you talk about, just look at the fruit of someone's life. And here's what I'm going to tell you. You are on the road half the month. You are always gone. And the only thing I can assume is you hate your family. You just don't want to be home. And that was a gut check. That just hit me so hard. And I looked around. I was on the road, so my health's out of whack. I'm not connected to my wife. My son, Austin, my middle son, looks at me, and there was a point that he looked at me. And when they asked me this question, it hit me. He was like, hey, you keep saying next year's going to get better. Guess what? It's next year. So it's never going to get better, is it? So when your kids are calling you out, that's another thing. And just realizing, man, I had it all turned around. And the minute that I really got this and started looking at this from God's perspective and going, look, I just surrender. I'm going to come home. I'm going to get off the road. I'm going to let somebody else take care of this. It's like everything just changed. And as I lived this out personally and lived with more intention, then it became clear, like I know exactly what we're doing, what I'm doing for myself and watching my life change. Then we got to apply this with families and watch their lives change. And then it was like off to the races. Like, this is exciting. This is good stuff. Because not only do I get to transform my family, we get to transform other families and generations. We're not just impacting mine, we're impacting hundreds of other families that way.
Okay. Yeah. I love that, because like I've experienced that a little bit with my family, with my dad and everything like that. And you can definitely feel it. And like you said, when your kids are calling you out on it, I think that adds that other level of, yeah, like something, because I feel like you kind of tune it out from your wife. Oh, she's just on me. She's nagging me like I'm doing this.
When your kid's saying that, it's real.
Yeah.
It's real. That's like, oh, snap.
Yeah. So then I'm curious, because how did that change? Because you still had your business goals. You can't abandon that. I think that just changes. But how did that change for you?
Well, so he told me, he said, hey, this is a friend of mine who called me out. He said, hey, I've got a suggestion for you. I want you to just test this. He's like, I want you to go home, as I want you to make the business the very last priority. And you guys are going to think this is crazy, but it's exactly what I did. He says, I want you to go home and make the business the very last priority. He said, I want you to get up in the morning. I want you to spend time with your wife and kids. I want you to go work out. I want you to spend time in scripture and study and meditation. He goes, and then figure out what time you go into the office. He goes, if you give me 3 to 4 weeks and a test and just see what happens. And I did that. I put everything else I put the things that were important first. I put my body, I put my faith, I put my family first, and put the business down towards the bottom. And it was like business completely changed. I became more productive. I worked better. I worked faster. I got more done. And we'll get into the 4Gs because this then leads into what we're kind of showing families how to do. But it's this, what this really showed me was, especially in the financial world, is so much of the financial world is about this idea of just this accumulation in the financial side or the business side, as I was learning. And so much more is possible when we flip the sucker upside down and say, no. Focus on the things that matter, the things that will last, the things that'll be around. And the financial side gets to be like 10 times easier and more abundant. It's crazy.
Okay. Yeah.
Crazy.
You've talked about that a lot.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. I mean, I've gone through a similar thing, and I could have told you that, as soon as he said that, his business is going to take off even better because he just learned to become a lot more efficient in the time that he had. He became a lot more productive because, he said, look, I'm going to put my family, my faith, and my fitness first, the F's that we talk about.
Yep.
And so that now after that, when I have this time for business, I'm going to be productive. I'm going to get as much stuff done because at the end of the day, this serves this, not the other way around.
Correct.
Yeah. So then can you keep going and then how that led into what you were talking about, the 4Gs?
Then what I started looking at was, so I had a gentleman who mentored me, and he had been working with families for like 30 plus years, helping them get clear in a way on this concept. And the principles that he was applying was showing families how to be a little bit more intentional. And in doing that, they were able to give more money away. They were able to pay a whole lot less taxes without changing anything about their lifestyle. I'm like, this is fascinating. And 7 years ago, he retired, and I bought the business from him. And it was when God started doing this revelation, and God's like, look, I need you to this is good. There's a whole lot better story waiting inside of this if you'll follow my principles. And so this is where the greatness, growth, governance, and generosity came from, was let's start at the very beginning, which is greatness. And let's take a step back and talk about this idea of why your story matters. So the reason your story matters is because there is a family that at the end of the day, you are going to interact with for 30, 40, 50 years, that you are going to transform for the better or for the worse, depending on how you go at this. So let's look at that family and why they matter to you. Then let's look at the financial side of what it is you're doing. And then let's go look at the facts. The facts of the world that exists right now say that 70% of family wealth will be gone after one generation, and 90% of a family that builds wealth will be gone after 3 generations. And everyone tries to make that a financial problem. It's not a financial problem. It's an upside down problem. It's a relational problem. We've built an entire industry focused on what the financial solutions are and are not starting with what the family solutions are. So as we're walking a family through this greatness idea and why their story matters, it's then, okay, now close your eyes and fast forward 2-3 generations. If you're on this trajectory that says 70% is going to fail and 90% is going to fail, and you're on the trajectory you're on right now, what's the story your great-grandchildren are telling about you? What's the story that your children are telling about you, your grandchildren? Was it that he worked all the time and he was so focused on money, we never had a chance to have a relationship with him, or is it, do you leave enough wealth that it equips them to enable addiction, to enable miscommunication, to enable divorce? And the financial industry has all sorts of solutions, but no relational solutions. And the idea of greatness is trying to get somebody simply just to take a step back and play the movie of why your story matters. Because if I can get you clear on why your story matters, then we can take a deeper dive as to look at growth. So growth is about what is the ROI on your story. So everybody goes, okay, I know what that is. Return on investment. No. What's your return on intention? What is it that you're intending to do and the outcomes that you want to be intentional about? And what's your actual return on that? And what we find with the majority of families is no one's ever stopped long enough to go, here are the things that I'm being intentional about. We let life come at us and we let life happen to us, but we don't take a step back and be intentional about it. And so what we're doing at that point is helping a family look at, okay, look, with where you're headed right now, this is where you're going. and we can play that movie out 5 to 10 years. Here's what's happening financially. Here's what's happening with your intentions, 10 years, 20 years. Guys, I will tell you this, our experience is 85 to 90% of the time, what has currently been drawn up for a business owner, a family, anyone financially is not what they want. Because no one's ever asked them what they want to be intentional about and what the intentional outcome. They've given them a financial solution without any consideration of what the family impact is going to be. And so our experience is helping families get clear on those goals and intentions. And most families will have about 10 to 15 things that they really want to be intentional about. Our experience is that I don't care how good your attorney is, how wealthy or poor, or wherever you are, but I would tell you our experience is that I have yet to meet a family that's accomplishing 50% of what they're intending to accomplish once we get them clear on what their intentions are. Because that's not the way the world's wired. Where the world is wired to help us get really good return on investment, but without any thoughts on what the unintended consequences are. You know, miscommunication, mistrust, divorce, all these things. And the one thing that I've found to be true is money doesn't cause problems. Some people want to, please don't hear me. I'm not blaming money. Here's the deal. Money tends to magnify and accelerate the smallest issues we're ignoring today. So you put money on top of that, it's like gasoline on a fire. You know, we don't communicate very well right now. You pour money on top of that gasoline, all of a sudden you end up with divorce and mistrust and lawsuits among family members. I mean, everybody goes, no, that doesn't happen to me. I'm like, that happens all the time for families who are not intentional.
Yeah. That's crazy because like I see it. I mean, I'm 20, but I see like the consequences of not being intentional in things that I don't like in myself right now. And so it's hard to kind of get that grasp on it and reverse that. It's really hard. And especially I can't even imagine how it is with an entire family and when you have those responsibilities, you know? That's hard. So talk to us about how that relates to then to the next two G's, and then how that transformation actually happens and what you guys teach families.
Right. So at this point, again, we've helped the family see why this is so important, greatness. So we've looked at growth. So what's your current return on intention? So now everybody's like, okay, so I know what my ROI is on where I am right now. The next thing that we do is take a step back from everything financial, because the most important thing, why this story matters, is the family. So governance is about who tells your story. You know, I don't know if I'm going to just say this real quick because I think this is so important. I don't know if you guys have seen Hamilton, but I'm going to tell you the reason I think that Hamilton resonates with everybody so much is that entire idea of the line inside of there that's who lives, who dies, who tells your story. Every single one of us deep inside have this desire that somebody's going to be around to tell our story. And that somebody's going to tell a good story about us. And what we've found inside of governance when we're looking at who tells our story is the very first thing that a good story for a family involves is values. What do we stand for? What is our purpose? What is our mission? And how do we actually memorialize that in a way? I've talked to so many families is like, yeah, no, we've got good values. You know, we've got good Christian values and we love each other. It's like, okay, but how's that memorialized? How do you sit around the kitchen table and actually talk about those things? And not only that, let each member of the family say, you know what, this is what that value means to me. This is how I live out that value. Because when you can get values into a family, it's almost like, how do you get culture into a business? You know, we talk to a lot of businesses like, what's your culture? What's your mission statement? What's your vision statement? Because culture, as Peter Drucker said, culture eats strategy for breakfast.
For sure.
But do we put a culture inside of our family that we memorialize? Do we put as much commitment into putting culture inside of our family as we might put into our business?
So good stuff. Great
right?
Stuff. Yeah.
And then the next thing, so now we can get the family about values. The next piece is vision. So what I've experienced in my own life and seen with a number of families is this. Families, each person's carrying around their own insecurities. And I'm doubting whether or not I'm good enough, whether or not I can get things done. I mean, I'm better than I was, but I still have my own self-doubts. And one of the things that we discovered is the same thing's going on inside of my kids. Same thing's happening inside of my friends. And what happens is, like, my son will walk by and I'll be like, man, I'm so excited for that kid. He's going to do great things. But maybe I don't verbalize it. Maybe I don't say it, but I'm thinking it. And he's walking around with self-doubt. And what he needs is he needs to hear the visions that I have for him, the greatness that I see inside of him regarding that. And so vision is about helping a family come together, capture not only their story, but also their vision for every single family member, and memorializing that and writing it down and reading it and saying it and speaking it over them. And how much power the family gets is I'm lifted up. Now I have words of encouragement from those who've come before me who are already speaking about the wonderful things that they see that I have the ability to do. And it pushes down my self-doubt. So we can get values, we can get vision, and then the next part of this is voice. And what I like to say is our objective is to help families give everyone in the family a voice, not necessarily a vote. So my kids tell me, kind of show me all the time that what happens is they just want to be heard. We don't have to agree with each other. And I think that's one of the things we're losing in our country right now is the ability to disagree and just have a voice. I don't have to change your mind. I just want you to hear me. And what we are trying to do is what we do is we bring families together and help them have a safe place where we can have a conversation where maybe we don't agree and you get to voice what you say and I get to hear it and I get to digest it. You don't necessarily get a vote on me changing my mind, but now everyone feels heard. And if you have values, if you have vision and you have a voice, what we have found is now families come together behind a greater purpose, which we call venture, which is what is the thing that our family wants to be known for and will go out and make a difference in this world, that together we can be intentional. Together we can go out and transform things. And a lot of times, I'd say 95% of the time, that's some sort of generosity, whether it's volunteering together, looking for causes to give to and get excited about. But more than anything, it's about getting outside of ourselves and taking those values, that vision and that voice to a place that we can all work towards common purpose. And notice at this point, we've hardly touched finances at all. We've hardly touched money at all. But we've laid such a solid foundation from greatness, growth, and governance that now we can go talk about money. And that's where generosity comes in. And it's in one way, it's the last step. In another way, it's like the beginning. It's the very beginning of where a family's going on creating transformation. But what we look at there is, how do we prioritize the intention? So we talked about your return on intention. Let's lay out all the intentions that you have. Let's look at the family conversations that we've had. Let's look at everything that's going on, and let's prioritize out of all these intentions how we can accomplish them in the best way. And what we found is, at this point, we can go to the world of financial solutions, and the family is so crystal clear on what they're doing for their family and what the purpose of their wealth is, that now all the tools come together and they can minimize, they pay a whole lot less in taxes, and they can give a whole lot more money away. I mean, just last year, I will tell you this, on the families that we partnered with through this process, just last year, we eliminated $140 million worth of taxes and showed families how to give away $180 million more than they were going to give away, and didn't change their lifestyle, didn't change the inheritance to the kids. What changed was understanding the priority of what I want to be intentional about, what I want to be known about, and telling a better story instead of settling for good. And then that begins the journey of, now we can be intentional every year. Now we just keep building on the greatness, growth, governance, and generosity. We keep walking back through those things and making sure that we stay inside that intention. But a family on a trajectory like that will change the world.
Yeah. I feel like when you lay that foundation, it makes everything so much easier. Now they're encouraging you in the business. Now they're like, yes, go help more people. Now they're supporting you rather than they're bringing you down. When they really understand all of that. And then, like you say, everything else gets better.
Hey, thank you so much for watching this episode of the 1%er podcast. Do me a favor, take a screenshot that you're watching this podcast and tag me on Instagram at Bakhtiar, and I will repost it and give you a shout out.
It gives us a place to have a conversation. It gives us a place. I mean, one of the things that we find, especially with money, is that the hardest thing that happens is people get, most of the time it's a communication issue, right? So I have a misunderstanding about something you're doing. You have a misunderstanding about what I'm doing. And then that miscommunication leads to division, leads to misunderstanding, leads to further bitterness and anger and everything else. And what we're trying to do is lay down a place where the family understands how to come together, how to communicate, how to love each other better. And then the whole financial picture looks different and takes on a different meaning. It takes on a different purpose. And it goes from a place, this is really it, right? It goes from a place of I'm investing and making money to serve me, or I'm serving it by working and everything else, versus now I know what our purpose is. I know what our intentions are. Now it serves me. And so I'm not controlled by it. We spend so much of our life keeping up with the Joneses and everything else because we're controlled by everything that we see, as opposed to putting you back in the driver's seat and letting the family be in control. And that's the flipping it upside down. What would God have us do? God would have us focus on our families. He would have us focus on our health. He'd have us focus on our connection to him, and he takes care of everything else. And that's all that at the end of the day, that's all. Greatness, growth, governance, and generosity are just a path to get you to flip the script.
Yeah. So, I think in my family, that would have made a huge difference, you know, and I know in so many other families too. I know Isaac, I know like all of us, that would make a huge difference, because when you have that foundation, it allows you to build.
Yes.
You know, it allows you to build. Like that yes. verse, you know, are you building your house on the rock, or are you building your house on the sand? So I think you guys have outlined an amazing way to build that foundation.
Totally different way of looking at finances. I've never seen anyone explain it like that. So, yeah. You know, I love the fact that, you know, without the right proper foundation, you can build all the money you want, but it's going to be a disaster.
That's it.
No, it's you know, wow, you know, I've never seen anyone explain it the way you do.
Could you get into a bit of the financial stuff? You know, that is something people are interested in. How can people be more generous? How can people pay less taxes without changing their lifestyle? You know, because we are curious about that as well.
Well, I'm not kidding. It really is about prioritizing the things that matter first. I mean, when you get into, one of the things I get asked a lot is like, one of the things, like we've got case studies on our website on like, hey, we did this for this family, or we did this for this family. And I've had guys come up to me before who said, hey, well, you just used this tool and this tool. That's how you did that. Oh, I've done that before. That's no big deal. I said, you're missing the point.
Yeah.
The tool fit because the family was so absolutely clear on what it is that they wanted to do. And then that tool was the very best tool to prioritize their intentions. And so many people go into this thinking, and I'll give you an example in just a second, but I just want to make sure you understand this. So many people go into this thinking that if I just had the right tool in my toolbox, then all my problems would be solved. This isn't a tool issue. This is, what are you building? How does it need to go together? Now let us go find the very best tool that will get you to that point. And what I've found, there are great attorneys out there. There are great CPAs out there. The problem is that to help a family really uncover what they're being intentional about takes a lot of work, and it takes a lot of intention. It's a whole lot easier to sell you a really quick, easy solution that the rest of the world is doing and looks easy, and to leave the rest of it behind, because it's what the rest of the world is doing. So you don't know any different. But you asked me kind of what's going on what could people be doing? The greatest example I think of that's going on right now, and it's a little bit slowed down because of COVID, but the amount of business transactions that have been happening leading up to this, people who are selling their business, private equity, going IPO, whatever, but the number of business transitions has been accelerating. It was at the highest number last year. We're certainly going to see a backup this year. But if you look, I think over the next 25 years, you know, there's like $180 billion that's going to change hands. What you've got is a generation of people who are maturing and growing businesses and things, and they're going to transition to another generation. So let's say you're a business owner who knows in the next 4 to 5 years, you're going to sell a business. What usually happens is you go in, you hire a business broker, they help you pull everything together. You sell the business and you deal with all the taxes and everything afterwards. And I'm going to tell you, this is really, really important, especially if you are a business owner. Most guys think that all their problems are going to be solved financially when they sell their business. And I'm going to tell you, there is a difference in having a dollar amount on a piece of paper and having a dollar amount that you can take to the grocery store. You got 10 million, 15 million plus that it says my business is worth on paper. Nobody in the family acts differently because you can't take that to the grocery store. You turn around the next day, you got 10 or 15 million dollars in the bank, and relationships change. People change. All the things you've been ignoring from a relational standpoint change. And so that's why we emphasize so much the relational side. But let's say you started talking about this relationally and financially beforehand. If you knew, let's say you knew you were going to give a portion away from that business, or you knew you needed a certain amount of income, there are tools out there that you can use before you sell the business that will minimize or eliminate certain amounts of capital gains taxes, income taxes, and things like that. And again, it comes back to what's your intention. But through those tools, you're actually double whammy. You're paying less taxes. You're giving more money away. One of those tools will pay you income for the rest of your life. So you've still got the ability to use the tool. You get a tax deduction. You avoid the capital gains tax, and you're getting income for the rest of your life off of a portion of the sale. That's just one little, you said how, that's one little how that gets applied. But I can't emphasize enough, because I see so many guys getting ready to sell businesses. Do not underestimate the family work that needs to be done before that money comes in. Because I've watched way too many families get to the other side of that, and dad's like, or mom's like, hey, we got the money, we're here. And the relationships are damaged, and there's so much work that has to go be cleaned up that they thought everything was okay. And all those hours they spent at the office or whatever come to haunt them, and could have been at least the path to repair started on the way. And if we get a chance, I'll tell you a story about a family that specifically happened for just in the last couple of years. It was a beautiful story of somebody who thought about this beforehand.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to, we have time. You can get into that for sure. We'd love to know.
There was a gentleman that we were working with who's getting ready to sell his business. This happened about 2 or 3 years ago. He's getting ready to sell his business, and we came in and started partnering with him and working. And we are not the investment advisor. We're not we're not here to manage their money. We're not here to be the CPA. We're not here to be the attorney. We are not here to broker the deal. We are here to work with the family and help them be intentional and create a better and live a better story. That's what our job is. And so we're working with him through the process. In the course of the story, he was divorced and remarried. And he said, you know what? Let me tell you, you just need to know, I have not been in the room with my 3 kids all together in over 10 years.
Wow.
It's been 10 years since we've had everyone in the room. I said, okay, tell us a little bit about it. So he gave us a little bit of the background on why that had happened. And there was some brokenness and a little bit of privacy. I don't need to get into exactly why that happened, but I mean, it was 10 years. And through the course of the process of us walking through, we put together a plan where he significantly reduced the amount of taxes he paid on the transaction. Nothing changed about his income. Nothing changed about his lifestyle. As a matter of fact, he went and bought a second home down in Florida shortly after this, and still things are going well for him. But to me, the best part of the story was about a year into our relationship, our family transformation team got him together. And for the first time in 10 years, it was him and his 3 kids in a room beginning the conversations of values and voice and vision, and talking about those things. And that helped bring the family together. And are there still some things to heal? Absolutely. You don't have that much damage that you fix it overnight. Those types of things don't get fixed automatically. But when we talk to him, he still talks about, he's like, I appreciate everything you did for me, but the greatest gift you gave to me was getting my family in the room and us being able to get to a point that we could start to have conversations. And to me, that's transformation. That's what we're seeking.
Yeah.
The taxes were great. The giving was great. All that's good. But a family coming together around all of that, that's what we're after. That's true. They will live a better story because of that.
Absolutely, they will, man. I love this, Eric. It's especially for all of our audience, you know, because they are business owners or they are people who want to get into businesses, this is going to be a very important interview for them. You know, making sure that they're not playing the wrong game and that they're, you know, that they're keeping the things that are important, and they're being intentional, because it's going to be important.
Foundation is everything in life.
It is.
Yeah.
Sam, and you talk about this, right? I mean, it is so easy to turn this upside down and think that the lie that the world feeds us as men and as business owners, and I mean, this may be true for women, but I'm not a woman, so I don't know, but is that I'm an ATM machine that's got to come home and feed my family. And, you know, I might sacrifice a vacation because I got to work, but I'm doing this for the benefit of my family. You know, I might miss a meal or two, but I'm doing this for the benefit of my family. I might, you know, let my health go to pot, but I'm doing this for the benefit of my family. And we're lying to ourselves the whole time because we haven't put the right foundation in place.
Yeah. This is going to help with that. You know, this is going to help put that right foundation in place. And can you tell people where they can find more about you, where they can find out if they want to do this with their family, and just everything you guys offer?
Yeah. So the first thing that I would recommend is just visit our website, www.paradiem.org. It's got information on what we do and everything there. I've got two things that I would offer. One, because this fits everyone, we offer a free family impact kit. And what it is, it's a tool that is like half a day worth of exercises that you and your family can go through together. And there are specific exercises on greatness, growth, governance, and generosity.
I need that for real. I need that for real.
So if you need that, send me an email at eric@paradiem.org. You know, we will send you out the free family impact kit.
I'm doing it right now. I'm serious. We need to get on the same page. You know, I mean, they know what I'm talking about. So, Eric, go ahead.
Paradiem, PARDIEM.org. Make sure you get the .org.
Yeah.
The second thing is, if like this resonates with you and you're like, man, I just want to know more, like whether or not this fits for me. We've got an intention survey that basically you can fill out. And so what I'd have you do, let me see. Got it here. Yeah, it's called a family transformation appraisal. That's the name of it. I'm sorry, I got the name wrong. But it takes you through 10 questions. It's like, are you living a good story? Are you living a better story? Where are the things? And it will walk you through specific questions around greatness, growth, governance, and generosity, and help you score that out. So if you send me an email and say just appraisal in the name, I will send you out that, and you can take that survey and just kind of see how you score. How are you doing on living a life of intention? And as I said at the very beginning, I think the biggest danger that every single family faces is this idea that life's good. I'm good enough. What I'm doing right now is good. And the question is, what would transform for you if life was better?
Yeah. Well, the email was sent.
We take good families and help them live a better story.
Yeah.
He's already on it. He sent that email. You know, so guys, if Sam's on it, you need to be on it.
I just need to make sure me and my wife are on the same page, man. You know what I mean?
But honestly, man, this was an incredible interview. I've loved this, man, because, you know, when I'm there, I'm definitely coming to you guys. But this was great, man. I appreciate it.
I love that.
I didn't expect what I heard, but I'm very pleased. Thank you so much, man. I came to get tactics. But I got, you know, but you know, you preached what needs to be done before the tactics, which nobody does. And we really appreciate the insight. Thank you, Ray.
Thank you.
Hey guys, if you like today's episode, do me a huge favor. Go ahead and leave a comment below, subscribe to the channel, leave me a review, and tag a few friends that you think can benefit from what we shared today. Really appreciate it. God bless.